What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Fantasy Nuts UK, and it's a Friday night edition. It's a special edition. We're going to add a little sprinkle of IDP flavors to this one. My guest tonight, he is a writer for the IDP Army. You can find them at the IDP Army on Twitter. He's part of the Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings every week, and he has had a #1 overall finish for IDP rankings this season. You can see and hear him on pods and shows all year round. The Cali King, Mase, what is going on, bro?
Dude, Lewis, man, thank you for having me on. Pleasure. I know we've been trying to link up for a while here. Finally got it locked in. That's dope. I appreciate the shout for the #1. I almost broke down and cried when I got it that 1 week, man. It was, I don't know, just hit the pinnacle of something that you've been going for. It's dope. And now to come back and just kind of talk with you on your show, being that we were both kind of 5-yard guys, it's kind of cool too. I got my FFCC 21 on. I'm still in, I think, the final 4 now, so I need a really big week this week, but enough about that.
Yeah, it isn't just defensive players that you know your stuff about, but it was fully deserved as well, that #1 week, because you put in the graft the same as a lot of people. You know what you're on about. You know, you do the hard work, don't you, in the background that a lot of people don't see. And yeah, fully deserved, man. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
But we'll kick off with a little look back. We don't normally do this because it ain't normally Fridays, but we're here. We'll have a little look at last night. So the Raiders lost out to the Rams right at the end of the game. They were down 2 scores. Baker Mayfield got it done. He came in for John Wolford early. He had that 98-yard game-winning touchdown drive. But Mace, what are you saying about the Rams receivers for the playoffs?
Yeah, so Ben S., I don't know how to pronounce his last name correctly, Stronach, I believe it's something like that. He's from Notre Dame. I was watching him when he's from over there. He's a later round guy. I mean, obviously, because the Rams don't draft a lot of early round people because all their draft picks are gone. But it was kind of nice to see a guy like Tutu Atwell step up and be, I guess, sort of a security blanket opposed to anyone else. Ben S. did get 9 or 8 targets, whereas Tutu, I believe, got 8 or 9 as well. So kind of some underrated value. I had Tutu Atwell ranked as my 40th overall wide receiver this week. Just kind of threw some spice on it. I figured Baker Mayfield would come in at least after the half. But yeah, like you said, he came in much earlier. I think Wolford only got like 2 drives, and McVay said that's enough. And that last drive, you said 98 yards. Baker looked so crisp in his drop back. He was hitting the out routes hard. His secondary read was across the middle, and he was hitting those almost perfectly, just taking what the defense gave him. And he looked very uncomfortably comfortable. Like finally, for once, the adversity had hit him, and it wasn't like grease up Baker time. It was like, all right, you know what, man? I'm Baker Mayfield, and I'm going to plant my flag finally and just do something. And I feel like he finally gave himself a foundation to start off of, to maybe like another team could come and pick him up or something next year.
Yeah, he fell off a little bit in the middle of the game because when he first came in, like you say, after a couple of possessions, I believe John Wolford got pulled out because of a little injury he was carrying in the week.
Oh, okay.
But they gave him the start nonetheless. But he came in, he was moving the chains, you know, he got a good 20 yards or whatever, and he looked good. And then he fizzled out and then came back strong at the end. And yeah, Ben, like you say, I'm not sure how to say his fucking surname, but Skronjek maybe. But
yes, man.
What? Like Van Jefferson, he got that game-winning touchdown as well, and it was great to see him back amongst it because he showed a bit of promise the last couple years as well.
Yeah, as a #3 for sure. But with the losses to Cooper Kupp and then also Allen Robinson, who really kind of wasn't really getting any stability at all anyways. It's nice to see those guys step up, because they have to, but just because they do kind of show off that they do have that ability, I guess. So that was a great catch by Van.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great final pass as well, and Van reeled it in perfect. But it's the Josh Jacobs show in Vegas. He had more carries than Derek Carr had pass attempts because he's been shit, hasn't he? But he had a few good weeks. The last couple of weeks, like sort of QB1 finishes, QB 11, 10, around there. But what are we saying about Josh Jacobs the next couple of weeks? If you've got him, you're very happy. He's a plug and play. If you're against him, what's going on with Josh Jacobs this year, man.
Yeah, he's really just been tearing it up and going off touchdowns, everything really. But in that Josh McDaniels, this is Josh McDaniels. Am I saying that? I'm sorry, I'm a little spacey today. Been up early. My kids are going. Anyways, the ex-Patriots coordinator and now current Raiders head coach, he's all about the running backs, isn't he? He likes his guys, and he's going to go after them, and he's going to give them obviously the thing or the carries and the attempts, whether it's through the air or through on the ground. And honestly, the way the defense was going, they were rightfully so pounding it, but it comes down to Derek Carr and that offense to find a way to turn out those third downs, or maybe a certain play call here or there. Like, I know the Raiders have lost a couple games via possession as well, not just this one. And people last week, media everywhere, even some of my buddies who are Raiders fans are starting to whisper, "Oh, we're going to the wild card. It's going to be a wild card." And then you kind of see what happened last night. So they just kind of implode on themselves. And I think Max Crosby said it best. He said in an interview that it's all self-inflicted wounds, man. And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could agree more with you, to be honest. Jalen Ramsey, he had a night, didn't he, against Devontae Adams. He kept him deadly silent. He still got 71 yards on his 3 catches, but, they were big chunk plays, weren't they? But Ramsey was lights out. It's as good as he can be. But do you think Darren Waller now, he wasn't available for last night. Obviously, he's on the IR. He could return for the playoffs. So what fantasy implications would Darren Waller have being available for your team for the playoffs?
Yeah, I'm definitely I saw my buddy pick him up like 20 minutes before I could in a home league of mine. So I was like, dude, dang it. But I wouldn't start him immediately, but he's definitely going to make linebackers in that safety freeze and maybe free up some other guys. So maybe look at more like a Mac Hollins to come through. Or I'm not sure about Hunter Renfrow if he's coming back or anything. But I know that Derek Carr's not a guy that's just going to fold over and like take an L on the season and just go into the draft next year. Like, he's on the block just like everyone else is, I feel like, in that kind of building. Like, even Josh Jacobs before the season, people were talking like, oh, his option to get picked up, like he might be gone. I mean, he still might. Maybe that's why they're running the tread off of him, but who knows? Yeah, I'm not really sure. It's a mess over there. But I really do think that the Raiders in that division, they might not even finish last because the Denver Broncos are just so terrible. So they may not be in the mix for wild card, but I feel like pride kind of comes into it, and they're still going to be fighting. So Waller could be a great ad. I would just be impartial and wait a week before you go and play him because he might get a goose egg or 3 or 4 points. They might kind of walk him back in.
Yeah, I mean, that is sage advice there, definitely. Like you say, the Raiders, they don't give up. They don't stop fighting. But I mentioned Jalen Ramsey a little bit. Do you have any IDP takeaways from last night alone?
Yeah, man, straight up. Max Crosby was my, I guess a little spoiler because we got the number 1 guys of the week coming up. He's my number 1 DL for Vegas. Nate Hobbs last night with 9 tackles, 1 assisted. Crosby had the sack for 4.5 yards. Jones also had a sack. There is a safety who has started to play more and more since Adams got cut and then went to the Packers and got cut. And now he's in, I don't know, Seattle. I don't really know what's happening there. The Raiders have had a lot of guys like that, like Blake Martinez as well, retired in the middle of the year.
Yeah.
There's a guy, Pola Mao. I hope I'm saying that right. He plays free safety. He's been getting a couple tackles and stuff. He's a rookie this year. So he's only played 31% of snaps. I think he played like 20 or 21 the last week. But last week, he had 3 pressures and a sack. And he's just kind of getting these tackles. So if you got a taxi spot or anything like that, go ahead and give that guy an ad, pick him up. But Nate Hobbs is definitely the number 1 DB there to have. Max Crosby, good to go. Linebackers, man, not so much for Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, I love a bit of Max Crosby, and he has been legit all season. Maybe it's because the Raiders have been so bad, but that helps us, right, when we play in IDP leagues.
Yeah, for sure. Well, he's finally turning those pressures that he had last year into actual sacks and hits and things like that. So those are big points.
He's balling without doubt.
Yeah, very electric player.
Yeah, definitely. He is balling. But we will move on to them predictions, like you mentioned, Just. And who is going to be the QB1 for Week 14, Mase?
I think it's going to be Jalen Hurts. I can't really say otherwise. I mean, this guy completely proved me wrong in the offseason in a league. I'm not sure if you're in that league or not, but I've kind of been out on him, man. I wasn't really sure of the development. I thought maybe he was just too one-dimensional, and then he came back this year and completely proved me wrong. I traded him for Mac Jones and a first-round pick, so definitely going to eat my shoe on that one. That was definitely an L, but This guy, he's delivering every week. He's got AJ Brown, the Slim Reaper, Sanders. Yeah, the running back. For some reason, he said that he wasn't going to be an option this year in fantasy, but he is. Like that whole Eagles O is just dummy, and it's because of the nucleus that is Jalen Hurts. So that's off to him. He's number one going forward, honestly, for me.
Yeah, they're getting it done. I mean, I was on the 5-yard rush flagship show Monday because Murph's a little bit unwell. And the one thing, and I put it on the notes, like Jalen Hurts MVP candidate, and Dan mentioned it, like you've said this. And I says, he's shown the Titans, they have a stout run defense. Yeah. He had like 4 or 5 scrambles. He did not rush the ball on a designed play once last week. He got it done in the air, nearly 400 passing yards. He is an MVP candidate this year.
Yeah, no, he definitely stretches the lid on that offense for sure.
Yeah, he's doing fantastic. But I am going for someone, I mean, he was the consensus sort of QB3, but people had him creeping up on Mahomes and stuff this year. Justin Herbert, Sunday night football game against Miami, and it's going to be a belter, this one. Yeah. Since getting some options back in the passing game like the past few weeks, he's been a top 12 QB again. Including a number 3 overall finish on Thanksgiving. Second most pass attempts in the NFL. And the big one for me, Vegas, their opening over-under, it was the highest of the weekend. Yep. 51 was the over-under for that one. It screams a shootout anyway, but when they confirm it, like, you know, Justin Herbert's going to be slinging that. Mike Williams seems good to go this week. Keenan Allen's obviously there now. Gerald Everett as a plus matchup. That's not forgetting Austin Eckler. And yeah, that's who I'm going for QB. Who are you going for your running back?
You just mentioned it, man, Austin Eckler, and it's because of that shootout. Honestly, I think the Dolphins are feeling kind of embarrassed for having Brock Purdy come out and manage a game and beat them. That offense for Miami kind of got the lid put down on them. So the more Miami scores, the more opportunities you have for Eckler. We're talking about a running back who's getting 9 targets a game in the passing, and he's going to extend it. Dude's got moves. He's sick with it. There's no possible way. He's too much of a double threat to not have him as number one. I guess the only other double threat I would say would be Christian McCaffrey, but the way the Niners offense runs, he kind of puts not like a lid on him, but a lid on him for fantasy. So it's definitely Eckler.
Yeah, Eckler's been outstanding. He's been what he was last season, if not better. He had 15 targets the other week. I think it was on the Thanksgiving slate, actually. 15. Wide receivers don't even get that.
Devontae Adams doesn't get 15 sometimes, man.
No. Like, it's crazy. Like, He's absolutely... Especially with a quarterback as talented as Herbert. If it was a rookie coming in or a backup, like, oh, my guy's injured in front of me, shit, let me just dump it off to Eckler all night long. Right, makes sense. Sure. But it's not. Herbert's the QB1 there, and absolute mental stats sometimes, but I feel like, again, similar to week 11, I believe, there's a lot of good running back plays this week. Yeah. Derrick Henry was a good option, although the Titans, they've been leaning less on the run and his yards per carry has bottomed out the last few weeks. You obviously said Eckler, that's a great shout. And I really like Deonta Foreman this week with the Seahawks. They're leaking a ton of rushing yards to running backs especially. But you mentioned your boy Christian McCaffrey. You're a big 49ers fan, of course, and I'm going for him. Doesn't matter that Tampa Bay have got a stout run defense. You know, with Elijah Mitchell out last week, he played 82% of the snaps and 25 touches. So they're getting him the ball as much as they can with Elijah Mitchell out. It also helps with Jimmy Garoppolo not being there because he had a 25% target share last week with Brock Purdy. I expect more of the same from that. And like we said with Eckler, with them 15 targets, if it was a rookie quarterback or a backup that, you know, can't do the job as well, like, we'd expect him to go to the running back with dump off. Like, but McCaffrey actually has that. He's got Brock Purdy there. So, I'm expecting more of the same there, definitely. Big week for Christian McCaffrey.
The stars are aligning, I guess you could say. So.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, they're going to use him until they can't use him no more, I'd imagine.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you?
So good, dude. He's so good, man. I still can't believe I've seen him on Sundays and he's playing for us, man. It's so awesome. It's nice to see him in the video.
It's absolutely crazy. It is. But who is your wide receiver one for this week?
Well, going back to that shootout game that we were talking about, I got Tyreek Hill. I think he's going to go for a pair of touchdowns and go nuclear. I think the most accurate quarterback with the deep ball in the NFL is going to link up with them a couple times. I think Waddle's good to go as well, so that's definitely going to help them out. Because I think last game he went out in the first or second quarter with an injury and then kind of came back sparingly. So Tyreek Hill, definitely.
Yeah, I've been loving Tyreek this year. I bought the dip all off season as well because there was a little bit of a dip after he was traded to Miami, and I was buying it. Like, these players don't lose talent, you know, and like we've seen with Devonta Smith getting AJ Brown, it's actually enhanced his game the same way it has for Jalen Waddle having Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm fully on board with that, especially with the potential shootout there. But for me this week, it just seems like it's been too long since we've had a Jamar Chase week.
Yeah, right? That's true, huh?
It seems too long. Since he's entered the NFL, we have not had this long a gap without having a Jamar Chase week.
Yeah.
And it's a divisional matchup with Cleveland. So he returned last week straight into the lead wide receiver role for the Bengals. 26% target share, give or take. 29% of the team's air yards. He is the guy that Joey B, my boy Joe Burrow, he looks for him first and foremost on that offense.
As he should.
And Higgins, well, it feels like he's been on the injury report for the Bengals all season, but he always makes it to Sunday. But he's on the injury report again. Hayden Hurst, doubtful, so there will not be a pass-catching tight end available this week. You got Devin Asiasi and someone else on the depth chart, you know. But yeah, I think we need a Jamar Chase week. It feels like we need a Jamar Chase week.
I think Joe Burrow wants a Jamar Chase week. But please, I mean, not that it's easy in the NFL, but the way that dude runs routes, and you see him go deep, and sometimes, man, there's not a people within a click of him, and he's just catching the ball and waltzing in the end zone, dude. And you're just like, how does he do it? It's almost similar.
Yeah.
Like, on the outside, it's similar to what Tyreek Hill does in the middle, dude, where he's just streaming and gone. Whereas Hill's more.
Yeah.
Yes, Chase has more of the moves and stuff like that. It's poetry in motion, man. It's gorgeous.
It made no sense to us until they started bolstering the O-line why they drafted Chase there at number 5 when Penei Sewell was available. Yeah. And now we know, or well, we seen last year as well, why they did draft Jamar Chase.
You don't need a lot when you got that guy.
Yeah, literally just Jamar's down there somewhere. Have at it. He's so good. But who is your tight end one for this week, Mase?
None other than Travis Kelce. Take the easy way out. I mean, it's really just beating a dead horse. But if you say anything else other than that, I feel like it's kind of just clickbait because there's no one else even on his level. That's it. It's Travis Kelce.
I mean, when Matt Cullen was on, the commissioner of the JTT Cup, he literally said less than what you just said for why he picked Kelce for tight end one. Like, literally less. Like, he was just like Travis Kelce because he's Travis Kelce, pretty much. And you can't argue with that. Like, he'd be the wide receiver 5 on the season. And he's a tight end.
Multiple years, probably. At least
probably top 12, top 10 for the last few, without a doubt. Yeah, but so
nuts.
Mark Andrews, I think he would have been a nice drum to bang this week. But, you know, the Ravens have no wide receivers, but it's a plush matchup for their wide receivers. Mark Andrews is going to be the wide receiver 1. He's good with Tyler Huntley. But I'm being a homer. I'm going for TJ Hawkinson, returning to Ford Field this week. And when way back in the offseason, for me, when I'm looking at tight ends, volume is key. And Hawkinson has been that guy for Cousins. He has been that safety blanket. And he's had over a 20% target share since arriving in Minnesota, over 20% in end zone target share since arriving in Minnesota. And it's a revenge week. He's coming out of that system where Dan Campbell's been breeding a culture and it's been fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I just think it's TJ Hawkinson's time to shine, man. He'll get some of them end zone catches.
I like that call. I want to give a shout to Hunter Henry as well. He's up against the Arizona Cardinals, who are horrific against tight ends. I'm not really sure the status of Jacoby Myers, but I know that Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia and Mac Jones need to figure something out on the offensive side of the ball, because Stevenson probably gets used as much as Josh Jacobs does. Those poor guys, man, just taking the whole offensive load on their back. Something's got to give there. So.
Yeah, Stevenson has been, I believe I referred to him as the PPR prince, because Eckler's the PPR god, right? For the amount of targets he gets. Ramondra's the prince. He's leading the Patriots in targets and carries. But these three tight ends, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, TJ Hawkinson, that's where they'll finish overall on the season. But barring a 2-touchdown game from one of the other guys, like we had a Dalton Schultz 2-touchdown game, Cole Kmet 2-touchdown game, barring one of them, these are going to be your top 3 tight ends this week, I think.
Yeah, no, that's pretty crisp and clear. There'll be guys here or there that kind of go up and down, but aside from that, but that's kind of what I do when I rank anyways. Like with the tight end, I just tier 1, Kelce, Andrews. And then maybe I'll put in someone else depending on the matchup, like you said, Hawkinson or Schultz, depending on if it's like they're playing against the Commanders or something. It's like a hype week.
Yeah.
Dak's going to need that extra security blanket because of the line. But yeah, no, it's really just cut and dry. It's like the most boring position for fantasy. Like you either have one or you don't, man. So
that is literally it. It's literally like you've got one of them, or you just hope your wide receivers put up a few extra.
Yeah,
right.
It's like Murph, the big man, told me, dude, when I first started interacting with 5 Yard. He's like, you either take Kelce or you punt the position, bro. And it's like,
yeah. And it makes so much sense this season more than a lot, because nobody's even close to him. Like Kelsey's on nearly 22 points per game. Mark Andrews on about 14.
That's a huge difference for a position.
It's absolutely crazy. But you mentioned Max Crosby, as your D-line one for this week. So tell us what you thought, man.
Yeah, I mean, when you see him play, he's just nuts. He's got outside help. He's got inside help. The linebackers, kind of a messy situation. They had Blake Martinez. It's been a revolving door. Perriman's been in and out. The other guy's escaping my mind. I don't even think Jaylen Brown was playing last night. So it's mostly the pass rush for Crosby, and he's just really been putting the cherry on top and finishing a lot of plays, multi-sack weeks, things that you're really looking for out of your GN1. And when you drafted him, I don't want to say that people were out on him, but people weren't all the way like in on him just because he hadn't finished up to that point. But this year he's just been lights out, and I've consistently had him in my top. I don't think I've had him outside of my top 4 at all. I may be mistaken, but I really don't think I have.
Yeah, he has had a great season regardless, but I'm not going to be predicting these IDP positions. I play my fair share of IDP, but how many times I reach out to you a year is probably too many.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
For your average sort of, I play more than your average person in IDP, and I do all right. I wing it a little bit, and but I'm not going to be predicting these. I'm not going to pretend I know what I'm on about. But who's your linebacker 1 for this week, mate?
It's just Jordan Brooks for the Seattle Seahawks. You said it earlier. Their run defense is non-existent. Swiss cheese, whatever you want to call it, man. Jordan Brooks is just racking up tackles. Like even Cody Barton's back there. He's had numerous top 30 linebacker weeks as well. But I just think the matchup's too good. Last week I had Devin White just because of his sackability and his pressures. But I think Jordan Brooks is just going to be eating up tackles, and that's really what you want out of your linebacker 1 is someone that's consistently going to get you points at a high level, and that's what this man does.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that Seattle run defense is shot to bits, and it's perfect for IDP, right? It is perfect. Yeah. And that's why you see people like Joe Schobert going off the face of the earth, and Blake Martinez now, well, I think he retired, did he eventually? But yeah. He's gone off the face of the earth, and these were guys who were like top 5 linebackers the last couple of years for IDP.
Well, I was thumping. I loved Blake Martinez in the preseason, and I definitely had to peel it back because it ended up biting me. But I mean, such as that, I guess.
I mean, we're both in the BFFL, and I traded away because I had no linebackers last year. It was goddamn awful. But I traded away Joe Burrow. I barely survived in the top flight. Actually, I traded away Joe Burrow, being 1 QB, standard scoring. It's fine for Dak, and that's all good. I think I gave the guy a 20th round pick or something as well for Dak and Joe Schobert, thinking I'm going to pump for the upside here because if this guy lands somewhere, he's going to rack up tackles.
Yeah,
he landed in Denver. I thought, could be better. There's a few guys there, Josie Jewell, and it just went the other way. I think I cut him about week 4 from that roster.
And that's the thing about IDP, man, is that there's such a revolving door at the position of people. It's really based on the matchup and the way that the game really runs. Because if you're running big nickel and you're playing a linebacker too, and like I said, your defense is playing a big nickel, that's 3 defensive back or 5 defensive backs opposed to whatever normally you'd have 4. They take a linebacker on the field. That's not good for you. It means your guy is getting less snaps. So you got to understand stuff like that. And it's messy because you could have a guy like Chad Muma for the Jaguars, who's drafted in the 3rd round as a linebacker behind Devin Lloyd, who was just complete insanity, beasting out up until week 7. And then he goes away. I put a bolo out on my buddy Nino show, it's the titles last week, just saying I don't know where this guy went. And then now Muma stepped in, and Muma's putting up monster numbers at the end of the season. I don't know. It's wild to me. It's with Jack Sanborn. So anything can go at any time, and it really just depends on the situation. So it's a wasteland. I love it.
Yeah, you've got to be on the ball, and you've got to be active in your leagues. Don't take it on if you're just a casual fantasy football player. That's my only advice to it, because you've got to be a lot more invested.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is always a lot more wealth on the waiver wire than there is in a standard sort of offense leagues. But who is your DB one for week 14?
Okay, so the easy way out would be to say Derwin James for the Chargers. Man's a beast. He's in the box, out of the box, slot, rushing the quarterback wherever you need him. But I believe he is questionable. So I'm going to go ahead and pivot, and I'm going to take Julian Love, the cornerback / safety for the Giants. This guy is, I want to say, out of nowhere. But, he had consistent snaps last year and the year before, around 700, I guess. But this year he has 754. It's the most he's ever had. He's got 62 solo tackles, 19 assisted, which are both more than he's ever had. He's allowed a 76% reception percentage, in coverage, 2 interceptions, 2 pass breakups. If you got this guy put on, he's kind of a guy like L'Jarius Sneed for the Chiefs, who really is just, you kind of slept on him, or at least I did, because they've got the cornerback listing. And like you said, there's such a wealth at the position that you're just whatever. But these guys can consistently put out week by week, and they're not really household names unless you really go for the team, or like you said, an IDP had. So you could probably go into any standard IDP league and pick these guys up. And even if you're just playing a defensive player, you're not actually going 4 positions. Probably a good start is that 3rd player or something like that. So I really like him going forward this year as well.
Him, L'Jarius Sneed, even maybe Richie Grant from Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
They're getting up with the linebackers, aren't they, on run plays?
Yes, sir.
And that's where them tackles are coming from. And it's almost like a new breed of where people used to say, when it was just DB and not specifically a cornerback or safety, like with the IDP guys, they're invitational, where you have to have the exact positions. But if it's just DB, people say go safety first. And you're absolutely right, because they get more tackles. But in this modern game, we had a Cameron Dantzler for the Vikings, right? Mm-hmm. He was getting up and tackling running backs.
Yeah. Cameron,
now. Yeah, but Dantzler was a cornerback, and it's almost like a new breed of cornerback, and they're able to get up as much, if not more, than some safeties. I think it's turning the corner a little bit with the IDP in that sense.
There's players like Isaiah Simmons who are the kind of the opposite, but on the same spectrum, whereas he's a linebacker that can also play safety, that also plays slot corner. So it kind of, now you're seeing these other guys that are just considered to be corners, but instead of being corner and now I guess a free safety, you got these guys putting on weight, getting size, coming in the box, now just having their way. And now you kind of have this X factor player that can do whatever, kind of like a Derwin James or like a Minkah Fitzpatrick, where they're just so smooth. They can play whatever you need them to play or whatever the team needs them to do on that play, and they could recognize it. And that's that hybrid kind of, like you said, it's that new age stuff, man. It's very cutting, and it's nice to kind of see it blossom, come out right in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had like the Jeremy Chins and the Kyle Duggars, and it was fantastic, wasn't it? But you give the people now some playoff guys, so potentially on the waiver wire maybe, or maybe on your roster already, but people who could potentially win you your IDP leagues.
Yeah, for sure. I got 2 guys from Miami, just to give up the big guys up front first. Jalen Phillips and Christian Wilkins. Wilkins is a defensive tackle. Phillips is a defensive lineman or a linebacker, depending. If he's a linebacker, I wouldn't put him in. If he's a defensive lineman, he's a cheat code. This guy's got 4. Okay, so Phillips has 48 pressures, 7 sacks, 34 combined tackles. Really good for a lineman, man. The pressures is kind of what the key is there. So the more heavy the passing, the better off you'll probably be on a weekly basis there. On the other tick there, Christian Wilkins, the defensive tackle, 66 combined tackles. That is ridiculous for an interior defensive lineman, man. This guy's swallowing everything up that runs past him. He's got 19 pressures and 3 sacks, so he also gets after it on the passing downs as well. More so the running downs, but, I mean, it's nice to have the best of both worlds. And he's only rostered, I believe, in 2% of Yahoo leagues. So I'm not really sure if that really means anything, because I don't know what the roster ship goes off of. It's offensive and defensive players. Either way, though, this guy's out there, so go ahead and make sure you check him out. Linebacker TJ Edwards, I picked him up a lot in the later rounds of the league, or of leagues I was in this year. He's got 109 combined tackles, 11 pressures, 2 sacks, 5 pass breakups. I don't know what that stat is. I can't read my own handwriting. Chicken scratch. He's got 45 targets. He allows under a 60% completion percentage. No touchdowns allowed, bro. So that's really, really good, especially for a linebacker on the field. He's just eating off everything that's coming by after him. So I'm not really sure if he's still out there, but definitely thankful I grabbed that guy everywhere. And then I got 2 guys for defensive back. I'll spare you on one of them because we already talked about L'Jarius Sneed. Dude's an absolute monster, corner, safety, whatever you want to call him, hybrid. Dude's nuts. 4 sacks on 17 pressures. But my guy, Taloa Hufanga, the safety. Now, he's not going to win you stuff every week. And there's going to be 3 weeks or 4 weeks where you're going to be cussing because he got you a goose egg or only 1 tackle. But on the weeks that he does do stuff, he's got 4 interceptions. I think 1 of them or 2 of them are game-stealing ones. He's a big play guy, big tackle, forced fumble dude. You put him in your flex, and you just pray that he has a huge week. So.
Yeah, Hufanga's a monster, isn't he? I love him. I do. His whole style of play, like aside from fantasy football, I really, really like him. But Nath Davis, NATO NFL over at 5 Yard Rush IDP, he loved a bit of TJ Edwards. He did coming into this season, and he sort of, sprinkled it into my brain. And I was a little bit like, okay, I'll keep an eye out. But yeah,
that's me, man. Nothing but respect for that guy. I never went over a 5 yard. Much love.
Yeah, he's a great guy as well. Him and Bren, they do a good job when they pull the show out. And, I think they're dealing with, Nate's dealing with a few personal things and that for now, but it will be back, I'm sure, in the future. But tell everybody where we can find you and what you do through the year, man.
Yeah, on Twitter at Cali King 49er17. I write and I appear on live streams and stuff for the IDP Army. I don't know, just mainly slide in my DMs, ask questions. I'm down for whatever, make memes. I love ranking, man. I'm always kind of watching some film, doing something. I also scout college guys and stuff, trying to get more active on that. Trying to connect the draft process to the actual fantasy spectrum and seeing where we can find middle ground, seeing if we can kind of sort out what a player will do for a team not before it gets there, but like once they kind of get on there, you already know their skill set going in. Because I know that there's a lot of drafts that kind of go on before the actual draft happens for the NFL. So it's nice to know the player before you're actually drafting stuff. But just mainly on Twitter and on the IDP Army.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, when I first started playing fantasy football during the COVID pandemic, the 2020 kind of off season, and I joined a few IDP leagues because I was joining every league that got sent my way anyway. Turned into a bit of a degenerate with nothing better to do.
Right.
But Mase was always on hand, like the whole time. He's really approachable. If you need any advice for IDP or offense, he will, and he is clever with the offense as well. But reach out to him, man, on Twitter at CaliKing4917. It's at the bottom of the screen. And yeah, thanks for coming on, bro. Like, it's been sick. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, dude. Hey, thank you so much. Thanks for the leagues that we're in. Thanks for the friendship, brother. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And unless you're playing me this week, I wish you all the best, whoever you are. I wish you all the best for week 14. I hope you get both feet in the playoffs if you've only got one. And yeah, that is us for this week.
Yeah.